Om Yo Brahmanan Vidadati Purvam Yo Vaivedanscha Prahinohi Tasmai Tanha Deva Atmabudhi Prakasha Mumukshurvai Sharnamaham Prapajye Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. That indivisible one, out of which sprang the divine Trinity at the beginning of a cosmic cycle, and who granted to Lord Brahma the Vedas and the Upanishads, who is an eternal bridge to immortality, who is partless, actionless, faultless, and divine, who resembles fire that has consumed all its fuel. I go for refuge to that Brahman, who turns the attention of mankind to the Atman, the indivisible self within. And there shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us. May that Brahman sustain us, and may that Brahman illumine our thinking consciousness. May we not find fault with the world, with the teachings, and may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om, peace, peace, peace. Peace be unto us, and peace be unto all. Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Tat Sat. So with that beautiful shloka from the Svetashvatara Upanishad, we begin our satsang. So happy to see some of you gathered here on weekend after weekend as we engage in these teachings on the Brahman that I just chanted about, the Atman within us, and the Divine Mother. Reading the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam again and again all week, because we'll be looking deeply into it for the retreat coming up in a few weeks. Finding Mother so encouraging of us to take refuge in her. And she'll save us from this round of birth and death cycles, take away our ignorance and our suffering. And she's fully equipped to do that if we can place our attention upon her. So she says in the scripture, just be aware of your own Atman and be aware of me. Take refuge in me and all will be fine. And those are precious teachings, as simple as they may sound, difficult to put into practice sometimes. But we're here in holy company, and we have holy days coming up and all around us. Monday actually is Krishna Janmashtami. So we have the holy day for Sri Krishna. So you might want to look into the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna on that day, or the Bhagavad Gita, and do some extra special studies, put some attention on the holy feet of the Lord. As you've been seeing, many of the God blogs coming out have been focusing on that too. And then we have Swami Advaitananda, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, the first of the month. And then we have Ganesha, holy day. Gaum, Om Ganesha Namaha. We have his holy day. The first day of our retreat at Windward Waters is Ganesh Chaturthi. So that will be another thing to look forward to. And we'll take teachings on all these aspects of Brahman and meditate upon them within our very self. Meditate upon the Lord as thine own self seated in your heart, who appears to you as the universe and who's the essence of all living beings. And perceive that one as the only witness to the phenomena of this changing universe, and as the primeval cause of the relationship between matter and spirit, which we're always going on as witness about. We see this going on. So with that opening to this satsang, I want to immediately open to the floor, as it is, or in the case of Vedanta, the ceiling. Anything that you might want to say this week have to do with your teachings you've read, questions that have come up, issues you're dealing with. It's all fair game. And Neo-Vedanta of Swami Vivekananda, under the umbrella of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, who can start us rolling with something here at Satsang.
Well, I guess I'll start if nobody else is. You briefly mentioned something during class last Sunday, which kind of stuck in my mind, and you just kind of went through it very quickly. But I'd like you to kind of elaborate on it a little bit more. You were making a distinction between the moment and the eternal moment. And could you elaborate a little bit more of that distinction that you're making?
Yes, I think I was speaking about my early days as I came up through the 60s and 70s, and Indian spirituality was coming on in different forms, with different kinds of teachers coming. And some of those catchphrases that got picked up had to do with living in the moment or living in the present. So along with those expressions, also came this teaching from the scriptures about the three phases of time. And that's, of course, past, present, and future. And you have three kinds of karmas also that go with past, present, and future. Sanchita, Prarabdha, and Agami, they're called. So when we talk about that, people also are going on with this idea about living in the moment, which when we looked at it, seemed to us to be no different than just everyday life. When people said that, I'm living in the moment or in the present. So we put that together with the past, present, and future teaching, which is a triputi about time. Trikaladarshi, if you are Lord Shiva, or if you're at all connected to Lord Shiva and you're looking deep into his family of devotees all around the world, then you become aware of that Trikaladarshi teaching. There are three phases of time, and that the soul is separate from them and always witnessing them, or should be. If you get dragged into the river of time, then of course you suffer this illusion of being born and living day by day and then passing away from the body. So it'd be a wise move on the part of a spiritual aspirant to transcend the three phases of time. That also goes along with the three gunas of nature and the three worlds. There's a lot of triputis there, which we call wisdom, but quite often this is wisdom to wake us up. This isn't wisdom of non-dual kind. This is wisdom of the predicament we have here in the body-mind mechanism. So with time, that becomes a little bit more cosmic, as I just chanted. That one granted Lord Brahma brought the Trinity out from unmanifested Prakriti and the worlds and everything, and then granted Lord Brahma the Vedas and the Upanishads, so that the next cosmic cycle would be accompanied by these great teachings. So some of those teachings like that have to do with time and space, of course, and location. So when we say past, present, and future, then we have to have some sort of expression that explains this teaching to us and to others when we feel like we have become or want to become the witness of time, because inside of the river of time, all this phenomena that we're experiencing is surfacing, rising and falling all the time. So time becomes a very important factor that can get um, overseen or overlooked. If you oversee it, then you're the witness. If you overlook it, then you get dragged into the river of time. So that expression that I used then has to do with the eternal moment. That's actually a teaching that the yogis give. There's a chart on it in footballs, by the way, the 6 aspects of the eternal moment. Something like that, the title is. And it all has to do with that moment that you're going to capture in meditation. If you can practice meditation and cut time down, is what our founder, Lex Hixon, founder of the SRV associations, said when he translated one of Ram Prasad's poems and songs. Practice meditation and cut time down. So the idea behind that is that just coming to this eternal moment where everything stops. And, the first thing you'll notice is, or have to do in order to cause that stoppage, is the breath. You'll have to stop the breath. So first you breathe easily and evenly, and then watch that breath even out to a kumbhaka state where you're hardly breathing at all, just like when you're going to sleep last night. You're breathing, all of a sudden you weren't. And then you started breathing again. So this appearance of triputis, like the in-breath, held breath, out breath, that begins to even out. And when that happens in sleep, it's rather natural, or depending on how some of the yogis probably call it rather unnatural, but nevertheless, it also happens in your waking state when you meditate. You have to become aware of the breath. So that's key towards this eternal moment, getting beyond, out of the control of just, there was yesterday what I did, and then there's tomorrow what I'm going to do, and then there's right now, which I'm just enjoying myself or suffering, as the case may be. So none of that is the eternal moment. I'm sure everyone understands that, but then what is the eternal moment? It needs to be experienced like that breath is. So pranayama and prana is very important in that regard, to wake us up to this presence of a timeless eternal moment. And that's another word you could use for it, timelessness. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you fire a gun for the first time, you see, or if someone comes up and tells you somebody that in your family has passed away, then you're shocked. And that's that moment that everything stops, thinking stops, and breath stops. You're suspended, and that momentarily, at least, in that kumbhaka state. So we want to try and do that, hopefully without the shock of phenomena causing it, like somebody finding out they have a cancer, or they're not going to live long. Then all of a sudden their mind changes and their thinking changes, and that's immediately a deep dive into one's own consciousness. Hopefully we can do that consciously without phenomena of nature and the changes of Maya doing that for us, or without waking, dreaming, and deep sleep doing it for us. We want to have this eternal moment as our eternal space and time, and realize that we have that available to us at any time. And it could be just as easily as becoming aware of your breathing process. And so these triputis also that I've been mentioning also help us ponder that, because we'll see that when people say I'm living in the present, that their minds aren't pondering anything very deep. The present is kind of a surface thing, admittedly. So whatever's coming to me in the moment, it is from nature, it's from phenomena, and then it's also from my mind, which is suffering the 3 gunas. So if I'm going to get beyond the 3 phases of time, get beyond nature and the 3 gunas, I'm going to transcend the 3 worlds, and all of that then will make me qualified for being able to sit still. And if breath is the last thing that goes, or my thoughts about past, present, and future are the last thing that goes, then I can enjoy this eternal moment with an exquisite enjoyment Vivekananda talked about, and be at peace. You need peace first and foremost, Holy Mother said. So ragged breathing, attachment to the world, suffering, the onset of phenomena and dualities and sufferings, none of that is going to give us that eternal living in that eternal moment, timelessness. But it does happen in past, present, and future. In the present, it's always happening in the present. So there's a marked difference between the present and the eternal moment. Easy to evaluate that and experience it yourself. But maybe you're going to want to taste that eternal moment with some consciousness at hand, right? I will right now breathe consciously. I will right now stop my thoughts. And it's not going to be just a practice anymore. This is what I've realized has to happen. I have to be in that eternal moment all the time, because the pure fact of the matter is that I am. Who else has something? I have to remember not to go on too long with my explanation so everyone gets a chance to contribute. And that looks like Isha has hand up.
Namaste, Babaji. Namaste, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I was just reading a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita, Chitbhavananda's version earlier this week. And yeah, I mean, what can you say about the Gita? I think probably with every passage that you read again and again, you find new things. Anyway, I'm not going to ask about the content of the chapters per se, but there's this one small passage which came up to my mind. I read it earlier in the week, and the passage, it was part of the commentary, so it's not part of the slokas, but it says that Jivatman who intuits the Brahman Nirvana gets merged in Brahman. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear what it says here, but I like how it puts together Brahman Nirvana. I mean, Nirvana is a big term. It has various meanings maybe on the context, but it often means something like extermination, extinguishing. So that individual, yeah, that Jivatman who intuits this Brahman Nirvana gets merged in Brahman. If you could maybe comment slightly on, yeah, this nice compound, Brahman Nirvana. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and first, before I do, I can say that, we're not nihilists, and we avoid the void. We're not talking about vacuous thought. When that happens, you're in the past, present, or future, because you're still thinking. If you want to connect it to the last thing that Anurag just brought up. So what we are talking about there at that point then is Brahman Nirvana is like when we get merged into Brahman and we realize the Atman is rather the doorway to that, like Divine Mother has put the Atman in every being before they took the body, before they took on the mind even. That was the source of everything. That's from which everything started. And so to find yourself back to the source, then you're going to concentrate on that timeless, deathless presence of Brahman called Atman inside of yourself. Now, if you've seen a picture of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa sitting in meditation, sometimes they'll have a label under that picture nowadays. It's called Brahma Samadhi. So Brahma Nirvana, Brahma Samadhi is the same thing. Actually, what you're seeing there is the disappearance, the nirvana, the making extinct, if you want to use that, extinction of, or the disappearance of, or the dissolution of, sometimes we say that, the human being and all its context. Now Sri Ramakrishna's just sitting there and it's just a shell, as it were. That shell has been trained not to interfere with Brahma Samadhi. It crosses its legs. It's okay when it stops breathing. It's all right when there's no thoughts in the mind, because it keeps its mind on the highest principle, which is not a void and is not what the nihilists talk about, and not what some schools of Buddhism used to talk about very dangerously. So there's a divine presence that's inspiring all that, that's behind that. And that's good that I just chanted that, oh, yo Brahmanan Vidadati Purvam, that Brahmanan, that Brahman there is at the background of everything. So that makes everything perfectly safe for the human being to actually return to the state of Brahma Samadhi, like Sri Ramakrishna, we see him in those pictures, and rest there for as long as the Divine Mother will keep you there. He used to say he would hear his joints getting locked up like she had keys, and so he couldn't move for a long time. She wanted to keep him in Brahma Samadhi for a long time. So she was holding the keys to his body-mind mechanism and just locked him there, and he would stay there. And that's why, fortunately, we can have some pictures of him and of her too, Holy Mother, in very high states sometimes in her pictures, very gracefully portrayed. So that Brahma Samadhi or Brahman Nirvana is that highest state of awareness, and Sri Ramakrishna used to go into it very naturally and swiftly in the midst of talking about God, teachings about Brahman, talking with people, priests and munis and yogis and sannyasins and sadhus coming through Dakshineshwar, or he would go somewhere and run into them sitting outside on the street. He'd just sit down and start talking to them. And they were shocked when he would all of a sudden, just by talking, go into this samadhi. And if anyone of his devotees were with him, he'd say, oh, they say, what happened to him? The sadhus, the priests, people who are supposed to know about spirituality have, turn and look at Sri Ramakrishna, because speaking about God just put him right into Brahman Samadhi, and he's gone. And so now they don't have a friend to talk to anymore, and they wonder, is there something wrong with him? Shall I go get the doctor? Or call the men in the little white coats, as we say here in the West? No, his devotees would say, he just went into samadhi. Look, there's his samadhi. You're now seeing the disappearance, the nirvana, the dissolution of the human being from the context. And now all you're seeing is consciousness that's now vacated the body. It'll come back soon. And so soon that will happen. Now, that's why we have Nidra Samadhi, you see, all of us. That's sleep samadhi. It's called Nidra Samadhi. We go into it every night. So we're all really pretty much experts on samadhi. How can we not be when that's our true nature? You can run away from your true nature. Swarupa Nyata Bhava, that's called in Tantra. But you can also go towards your true nature. Swarupa Pratishta. Pratishta means to be steady. So you come into your true nature, you see it, you say, I think I'd like to stay there now. Thank you very much. So I'm going to be in that eternal moment, if you want to put it that way, and be Swarupa. My essence is now going to be Pratishta. Swarupa, right? Abhinay, you were making a pun on that yesterday in the email we exchanged. Swarupa. That essential rupa form. So basically, he would go into these states because he was so much acclimatized to higher consciousness, higher awareness. That's where he preferred to be, and he'd sometimes pat the top of his head, symbolic of the Sahasrara, and say, oh, Mother, please come down so I can talk to this sadhu, or I can talk to this priest, or I can talk to my devotees. And he would often do that with the enticement of bhakti. He would love to come down to the realms of bhakti in the heart, he said, so he could really enjoy the divine sport of everything. So again, why we want to get beyond just focus on the three worlds alone, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha. We want to get to this heart chakra and live there. And that'll open up avenues deeper to what then we're talking about here, to have higher samadhis or satori or nirvana. And I think knock and it shall be opened. You want to just put Jesus into the picture. It wasn't just saying, oh, he'll answer your prayer. Jesus was saying, knock and he'll see God. You'll have samadhi. Let's not put Jesus into some, small little place of lower consciousness where, asking God for things is what you want, or even asking God to relieve your suffering. No, knock and it shall be open. It means open up that nadi to your true nature. Think your true nature all the time. Breathe your true nature all the time. And eventually never let off or leave off from it. Hold it. That's that eternal moment that you've been seeking to return to. Who else then wants to say something here at Satsang?
Namaste, Babaji. Namaste, everyone. I didn't have so much as a question, but just a couple things that stuck out to me from the Sunday class series on constancy. And there was something you said, Babaji, that kind of stuck out. It was that tapas puts the electricity in sadhana, so that austerity, and also got me kind of thinking, rolling over in my mind what tapas actually is, what austerity is, and you mentioned a kind of restraint or a self-control. I think we can all kind of wrap our mind around that aspect of it, but gone on to think about it a little deeper, it's that detachment. And you mentioned constant practice plus detachment is how to get rid of the vrittis, klista and aklista. But if you could just maybe comment a little more on that tapas, putting the electricity in sadhana, maybe describe tapas a little bit more and how that could look different than just refraining from things we might normally reach out to or push away. And then maybe kind of, if you could connect tapas with constant practice plus detachment, if there's a direct connection that you see there. So thank you, Babaji.
Yes, abhyasa vairagyabhyam tam nirodhaha tatra stitau yatno bhyasaha satu dirghakala nirantarya satkara sevika dridha bhumi. Authentic self-discipline joined to dispassion will successfully destroy the negative waves in the mind, says the father of yoga. So he's wanting you to do this tapas, this austerity, as a practice. It starts that electricity starts off as yearning for union with God, or yearning to see God, or yearning even to be free of suffering. Sri Krishna in the Gita mentions 4 different kinds of devotees, and one of them is that one who wants to get away from suffering. So true austerity then is I'll put it this way: a lot of people are walking around saying, "I want more. I want the world. I want life. I want everything to work out," and so forth and so on. And the ascetics are walking around saying, "I don't want anything anymore." And that's why they're really odd men out and odd women out too. When you talk about the yoginis and so forth, they've gotten through with their desires and atma kama. They're satisfied with the Atman. Their desires were only for the Atman. And how that looks on people, that's why I had Annapurna read last week from that book by Swami Ashokananda, where he describes seeing 4 of the direct disciples. He went back, he was in Bellarmine there in the early days, and Ramakrishna had passed, and Swamiji had passed. So a lot of the great souls had passed, but there were 4 great disciples, direct disciples there at that time, and Ashokananda saw them, and he said, just coming up with them on the banks of the river, standing there just in a plain cloth, was just like seeing the gods. He said, you just never see people like that. And they didn't have anything marvelous about them. They just had a cloth on. They're standing on the river like anyone else, but the atmosphere around them was all masterful tapasya. They had given up everything. They had nothing left to live for. Probably even Bellarmine wasn't calling them anymore. They were just free again. They're free from everything. And so it really impressed him seeing these direct disciples who had been around Sri Ramakrishna, who was, of course, the king of renunciates. So that, on the level of householders and the level of everyday world and everything, is that if it's a proof to us and also permission to us that if we have problems that are plaguing us and won't go away in our everyday life, then we can turn to tapas. We can do austerity. Probably need a guide for that. What kind of austerity should I do to get rid of this particular problem? And then the guide, the guru, the acharya will tell you, think this way and do this. Use this mantra. Here's what the bijam means. Concentrate on this deity. Recite the mantra that I'm giving you with these beads, and so forth and so on, so that you're just all of a sudden enwrapped in the spirit of tapas. It's one of the aspects of Kriya Yoga, right? Father Patanjali, if you put austerity together with studying the scriptures, together with love of the Lord, Ishvara Pranidhana, then you've got all of spiritual life that you need right there. And that austerity will enliven it, will make it electric. Okay? So it starts out as yearning. Later on, it's called intensity. And after that, it's called expansion. May my mind expand in its capacity to know Brahman. Once I see that light and I can't contain it, I want to expand myself. So Sri Ramakrishna would talk at that level and people would say, well, we're just little containers. We can't hold much. And, we're just like little cups, little glasses. And Sri Ramakrishna said, well, take your glass to the glass blower. Take it back to the glass blower who made it. He'll put it in the fire and he'll stretch it. And then a 1 seer cup can hold 2 seers of liquid. Now it can hold 3 seers of liquid. It's kind of a double entendre there, the word seer, I think. It's a measurement, but it also means a knower of Brahman. So become a seer, become 2 seers, become 3 seers worth of consciousness, and expand yourself. And that austerity will stand you in good stead. It will do you very well to. And then if you see an example like Swami Shokananda was talking about, seeing those Swami Turiyananda and Premananda on the river there, those are those souls that are completely unattached. See, from the company of the holy comes freedom from delusion. From freedom from delusion comes steadiness of mind. Steadiness of mind comes asanga. You don't have any attachment to anything anymore, even sangha. And from asanga comes jivan mukti, living liberated life, the living liberated soul. The West does not produce the jivan mukti yet. What are you waiting for? My teacher used to yell at us when he got tired of us from the podium there in Portland. Be free, wake up, be free. All these things that you're worrying about, brooding about, that you're concerned with are nothings. And only the austere mind and a strong mind is going to realize that and take the strict measures to put itself on the right path again, the straight path to Brahman. And it can happen in an instant, see, in the mind there. And you'll become steady like Lord Shiva. Steady, sthiti, swarupa pratista, as we were just saying. Steady in yourself again. And then you can say, like Swamiji, I'm a Vedantist. I scarcely see any other God except myself. And this is what Mother wants. She wants people free, get free. She'll hold up the worlds as long as stupids have, she uses that word in scripture. Oh, those stupids out there, those demons on the battlefield, trying to win this and that, trying to keep their egos. They won't give up that desire for limited things. So let them have them. Let them have what they want. Let them suffer along with it, because you can't have it without that. But she'll want her precious spiritual children to awaken. Mother Kali is flying mind kites in the bazaar of mundane human convention. Ram Prasad sings. She's flying mind kites. So she's got us all, our minds are all like with strings. She's got them in her hand. So yes, she does control all souls and the whole, all the universes of space and time. The sun shines at her behest on everyone. Masritam, Masrimantam, Samudyantam. The sun god himself casts scintillating rays over everything, everyone who's attached under the realms of the sun. But if you want to go beyond the sun, then that string has to snap. And when it does, when mind kite gets away from her, she claps and dances gleefully, and says, that soul is back to its source. It's free of all concerns and considerations now, and it will never suffer the vicissitudes of Maya again. If it comes back again, it will come back Jivan Mukti, come back as a liberated soul, having learned all its lessons.
Thank you, Babaji.
Yes, tapas, austerity, very, very important element in the quotient. Yes, Isha.
I hope you forgive me for taking another chance. Since nobody's asking a question, I'll just go ahead and bring something up which I'm thinking about. There's another quote from the Chitbhavananda's Gita here, and it says, the unmanifested is technically called avyaktam or Mula Prakriti. That which is the unmodified state is the meaning of this term. This principle is the cause of buddhi or the intellect. So yeah, I'm thinking about this in the sense trying to understand Mula Prakriti, and obviously if we just take for example Gautapada's Karika, therein it says that Brahman can't be the cause of anything. So what we are talking about here is that, or what I'm trying to understand here is that, is this Mula Prakriti then something which is not part of Brahman, just the deep intrinsic essence of Prakriti? Yeah, I'm just trying to come to terms with the meaning of this concept. I hope you can understand where I'm going and maybe shed a little light on it. I'll paste the verse into the chat if anybody wants to see it.
All right. Well, Mula Prakriti or Prakriti Panchaka, fivefold nature. Depending on the darshana that you're espousing or following, like difference between Samkhya and Vedanta, for instance, and Tantra, where the world of nature and Brahman are both real. You get to the Advaita and so forth, and then all of a sudden the world becomes unreal. So you're going in that direction of formlessness and transcendence and all. It's all well and good. It all fits nicely. Just depends on the individual's place in it all, which darshana they're practicing or following. Like if you're doing austerity, for instance, then you're probably wanting to lighten your load and not have to worry so much or suffer so much or think so much. and maybe less possessions, and your thoughts, you want to do less thinking process and read less books. And in the meantime, back at the other side of things, you have this world to consider, Prakriti. And the beautiful thing about our Shakta Advaita, that is, we put together non-duality and Shaktism, Divine Mother, could call that Shakta Advaitavada. It's kind of a path that Lexington and I both defined when we went to India in the early days. We found that what we were looking for, because there were these different darshanas that were, Vedanta, Yoga, Samkhya, Tantra. It was all coming at us. And what were we? What were we following? And we had to define it more, not only for ourselves, but for those people that were coming after us. So the tantric side of it then is very beautiful to look at with Mula Prakriti or Prakriti Panchaka, and we'll be studying some of this at the retreat in a couple of weeks. This is that the Divine Mother talks about her aspects in nature. And so you begin to find out that Prakriti is under her regime. She's got basically Durga, Saraswati, Lakshmi, Radha, and Savitri are her 5 main forms. So she talks about this as being Prakriti Panchaka, or Mula Prakriti. Durga Devi Shvari, Vishnu Mahamaya, the song that I composed about Mula Prakriti, and I got inspired by that whole teaching and put out some of those songs, so those bhajans. So then she's got all these secondary aspects like Swasti and Daya and Buddhi and so forth, all of her qualities. And these, of course, are with qualities, so they have to have some sort of foundation upon which to rest. And that foundation is going to be Prakriti or Mahaprakriti or Paraprakriti. It's great. It's not just the 5 elements, that make objects that then you have to renounce because you're getting attached to. That there's that whole direction of things for the beginner, but for the one who's worshiping, they're not attaching to nature anymore. They're worshiping it. I don't know how to make it any clearer. If you let go of things, objects, attachments, and all that, then where do you go if you can't go to Brahman yet? You go to her. You go to Mahaprakriti, the mother of nature. And don't mix it up with Mother Nature in the West, because that's just insentiency. But you go to the Divine Mother herself and her aspects, and you're starting to see everything. This is where you'll come upon nature as gods rather than just nature as resources. So there's a whole split there between those people who are going the way of evolution and science and so forth, atomic principles. But the atmic principles are going a different way. And it begins with the worship of all the deities in nature. You see them as animated with her presence. And so that's going to put Prakriti on a whole different footing than what you thought Prakriti was when you studied Samkhya, or when you thought Prakriti was when you got into Vedanta. Unreal. You always hear that, must be renounced. It changes. But there again, we're not nihilists or voidists. When we get rid of something, we take a covering away to see what's underneath it. That's the purpose for doing that, for inspecting it, for scrutinizing it, is that we don't do away with it and just say, I'm free, because that obviously doesn't happen that easily. We don't do away with it and say that was illusion, because it's a matter of fact that it existed one time in our mind and it's still in our thought processes. We do away with it so we can see the abiding essence underneath it. And that's why worship of nature in Tantra, worship of nature in all races actually, has been a beginning towards real spirituality. It's when they let go of it as a dire need like mankind's, has to make a living foraging in the forest kind of thing. When everything became properly attained in our life through the Dharma, then we had the leisure time to turn to nature and see her as she really is, without the desperation of life force in it. Again, then the life force, you take away your attachment to the life force, which is the most powerful addictive drug in existence, is life force, prana. And you turn that down. Now it becomes the light shining in the sun. It becomes a property of the wind, vayu, moving through the akasha, and it becomes the flow of water and all of a sudden, the perspective of the mind has totally changed back towards this Prakriti, Panchaka, this fivefold nature that is filled with consciousness and which is there to serve the Purusha. Prakriti is there to serve Purusha. And when it serves Purusha, the Purusha is not going to become attached to it as a bondslave. It needs to remain masterful in its usage of Prakriti in nature. And if it falls under its auspice and gets attached to it, that's what you see in the world right now. It's causing so much suffering, war, violence, and various things. So anyway, this is a very important and takes more than just 5 or 10 minutes to talk about. But you brought up a very key point there in the teachings of Shakti-Advaitavada, is how we're going to look at nature from now on, as compared to what we did when we were attached to it. As you start to get free, then nature has to take a different place. And you have to take a different stance with it. And that's really more of a tantric approach. The yogic Vedantic approach is more towards transcending it. Some 5 minutes left. Someone want to add something in here to our satsang?
I'm not exactly clear, but when you referred to Purusha not being the bond slave to Prakriti, I mean, what exactly would it be experientially? I think I understand it philosophically, but experientially, what would be the implications of that?
Well, it was just like we were speaking about for the past 45 minutes or so, about how an austere soul looks, a person who's unattached and has got dispassion of the emotions and senses, and non-attachment of the mind to nature. That's why Koivalya is such an important word. We looked at it also in the class last week, is that the soul will reach Koivalya, which will be an isolation from its attachment to nature. But it shouldn't be assumed then that nature goes away, because it's an eternal principle. Purusha and Prakriti are two eternal principles. It's just that the rub there is there can't be two realities, because
So
they would cancel.
I'm sorry, are we talking about the witness, like pretty much like developing witness consciousness?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really explain it without using a philosophy. But if you say experientially, then I'm trying to maybe set up, to say how the soul who's living in nature looks like the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna.
As an example, like this morning, for some reason, and I haven't done this in many years, as I was laying in bed, I just started doing the breathing, like breathing in, I am Brahman, holding the breath, I will always be Brahman, exhaling, I am not the world. And, extremely peaceful to do that, Then I got up and started worrying. different things. But, so it's the, I guess it's maintaining that stand by the side and watch the whole play, watch the parade going by rather than being in the parade. Easier said than done,
Yeah.
of course.
For sure, for certain. And that's why Holy Mother tells us that keep in mind your divine nature, your Atman, and also take refuge in me, your mother, your divine mother. And those two things will keep you on a straight and narrow going forward all the time. It's a beautiful way of looking at it to simplify everything, so that brooding and worrying won't encroach upon our blissful moments, which should be the eternal moment. That eternal moment should be blissful. At least it should be content, and hopefully even peaceful. I think those are different levels of things. It's like the difference between happiness and joy, and then elation, and then ecstasy. I mean, ecstasy, ananda would be up there somewhere. So you have to kind of measure where you are in the sweep of things, as long as Prakriti and also Maya hold some sway around you in the world. You don't want to be swayed by that sway. See, and want to be steady in it and centered in it in yoga. So all of these teachings, that's why we put together. The beautiful image of Divine Mother Durga I'm using on my new chart with these 4 tigers coming at us. She's no one to mess with. And those 4 yogas she's coming and say, why aren't you using these? Why did you call me back here to this realm for such silly things that you're worrying about? Take up these 4 yogas and make yourself pure again. And because you are pure, and before your inception, you're pure. So somewhere along the way, at the point of inception, we started to take on this thought of being. So all of that has to go by the wayside, or as Christ said, get thee behind me. Thank you all for your submissions and additions to this final satsang. We'll have a final God blogs in about an hour. So I hope to see some of you on hand for that. Om Drishyam Pratitam Pravelapayan Sanmatram Anandaganam Vibhavayam Samahita San Bahirantaram Va Kalam Niyetaha Sati Karma Bande. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Brahman is an indeterminable mass of pure conscious awareness. Therefore, taking what is external and what is internal, render them both into one indivisible state. Then meditate upon that state and pass your time contentedly and be free. Oh, peace, peace. Peace be unto us, peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat.